Alright, one of the first things we want to do when we open RobotC is we want to set it up for Vex Robotics. So we're going to click New File over in the top left. You'll see a blank empty task main here. We're going to set up three things. They're all in the Robot tab. So if you click Robot, first thing we want to make sure the platform type is Vex 2.0 Cortex. It probably defaults to Vex IQ. If it is on Vex IQ, make sure to come down here and change it to Vex 2.0 Cortex. The second thing we want to set up is make sure the natural language PLTW is checked. If it's not, you will not have this natural language tab over here under the text functions. The third thing we want to set up is the communication mode. We need to make sure it's USB only. If it's not, then obviously you need to click that. Once you're done with that, you're ready to do the motor sensor setup. Alright, once we've set up the software with the 3 steps we have to do every time we start a new file under the Robot tab, now we're ready to start setting up our motors and sensors. So if you click Motor Sensor Setup right here, you're going to see 4 tabs across the top. We'll start with the right. There's our digital sensors. We could type our own here if we wanted. Analog sensors. Then we've got our motors. We'll never use ports 1 or 10 because they are only available for 2-wire, and we need to use 3-wire motors so that we can use the motor controllers. We're going to go to Standard Models. We're going to change this to GTT testbed because that's what we're learning to code the basic GTT testbed. When you click that, you should see a picture over here of what you should have already built, minus the claw motor. We don't use the claw motor just yet. You can see here where everything's plugged in. If you want to check everything, analog 1 and 2 is line follower potentiometer, digital 1 and 2 are limit switch and bump switch, and digital 12 is our green LED. And all that means is that we've got an LED plugged in there. It doesn't necessarily have to be green. We just called it green. So you can see our motors here. They're changed to 3-wire motors. Analog sensors. You can see we've not only typed in line follower, but it is a line follower sensor. Same with potentiometer. Digital. You can see we've named them limit switch, bump switch, and then green for our Vex LED. We could change this to red. It doesn't matter. It's just we're going to have to type that word in red when we start recalling that code for the LED. So hit apply, hit OK. You can see here we have a pragma statement at the top that just lets us know that we have set up our motors and sensors. And you can see here on this second line we have changed our digital 12 to red instead of green. So it's slightly different than the original GTT testbed. So next you need to compile the program. This button right here, what that'll do is it'll build the shortcuts for you. So now we can start writing our code. It'll pull those shortcuts for us. You'll need to save it. If you've already typed something here, you may get an error saying it can't download it. That's fine. Just save it. So all we're really doing is looking to save it. So now we can come over here and start actually dragging code in. So we can go to Robot Motion under Natural Language, Robot Motion, or Movement, and Setup. We've got all these different tabs here under Natural Language. We're going to start in Movement, and we're going to do Start Motor. Okay. Motor port, it's just asking for which motor. Again, refer to the GTT testbed for what we called it. The motor port, let's just start with right motor. When you start typing right, you'll see it come up with a shortcut right here. You can tab down and hit enter, and it will build that for you. Red is good. If it's red, that means the computer, the Cortex, understands it. Speed, 127 is full speed. Full speed one direction, negative 127 is full speed the other direction. So we're just going to leave it at 127 for now. Now we have to tell it to wait, so those motors will run for an amount of time. We're going to drag over wait in milliseconds. 1,000 milliseconds is 1 second, so let's just do 2,000, so it'll run for 2 seconds. Back to movement. Now we're going to tell it to stop that particular motor. So we drag stop motor over. You can see that motor port. If you double click motor port, we tell it to stop that right motor, and you'll see the shortcut comes up and you can click on it. One thing we also need to get in the habit of doing is typing pseudocode. Pseudocode just is a natural language way of telling normal people what we want this to do. So I'm going to tab over a few times and put 2 forward slashes. They'll turn green. If it's green, it's not going to affect your code. So here we could just type in right motor starts and runs for 2 seconds, then stops. So when I come to look at your code to see any problems, I can read this and know exactly what you're trying to make this do. All right, and it won't affect your code. Even if there's a spelling error in here, this will not affect it running. All right, so now we're looking at how we can get these to turn on other than just as soon as you hit the F5 and download it. So for example, if I want to download this code, I'll hit F5. Slowly but surely, there it goes. It's going to tell me it's downloading it. It's going to come up with this program debug option. I guess I could turn it on. There we go. Cortex is turned on. So this debugger window comes up here. One thing you want to do is you want to make sure you have all these sensors at the bottom. If you don't have these sensors at the bottom, you need to go up here to Robot, Debugger Window, and check that Sensors is checked. So yours might look like this. So you don't know what your sensors are reading. Go to Robot, Debugger Window, and go to Sensors. Now I can see my line follower, potentiometer, and I can also see my touch sensors. So when the limit switch is hit, you'll see it change from a 1 to 0. So I know that it is reading. And then if I want my actual code to run, I'll just click Start, and it'll run my code, and then it'll stop. Okay, and then I have to actually hit Start again. You'll see the green line. It shows me what it's waiting to do next. And so I just have to keep hitting Start, and it's running through my code.